Nice smooth pace. Nice smooth pace. Good morning, afternoon, or evening, depending on when you're tuning in. Thank you for coming back to the Lead with Empower podcast. Zach, excited to be back on with you for our late May, early June recordings and episodes. What's going on? Everything good?
I don't know if the viewers would notice this or not, but my beard is gone. This is the barest I've been in years, so don't judge me. But that's my new update for today.
No, man, you've been good. I know I caught some strays when I had my winter growth from. I'm gonna give my guy Craig Bowman from Rocky Hill a shout out because he was ripping me up and down for the long beard, which after a few ribbings, it prompted me to shave mine down. Zach's was not because of that. Everybody's much nicer to Zach.
Much nicer, and I don't tell them I made a mistake, and I'm like, it's got to come off.
Mistakes happen. Sometimes you got to burn it down to bare and start from scratch.
Start from scratch. Yep, that's it.
And then sometimes a little adjustment fix it. With the beard, it's usually scorch earth and start from scratch again.
Yeah, maybe I'll fix it. It's easy to manage.
Hey, so before we get into it's Memorial Day weekend, we're recording on the Friday before, so whenever you take this episode in, hope you have a great one, or hope you had a great one. Get an opportunity to celebrate the start of summer and spend some time with family, friends. But we also have, before we get into the real crux of our episode here, the New York Knicks, my New York Knickerbockers, are in Eastern Conference finals for the NBA playoffs. And I know Zach's not a big hoops guy, but in game one of the Eastern Conference finals, the Knicks were down by 22 points with 7 minutes and 20-something seconds left in the game. And they mounted what ended up being the biggest comeback in NBA history in a fourth quarter, down by that many points since 1991 or something like that. So something extraordinary.
That's pretty cool. Did you watch it live?
I watched every second of it, and it was with 8 minutes left when they were down by 22. I'm like, I'll get to the next timeout because it was early morning the next day. I'm like, I'm going to get to the next timeout and see how things shake out before I pull the plug on it. And as they're going, 7 minutes down to 6, down to 5, I'm like, damn, they're down by 15, down by 12, down by 8, 9. And they end up coming all the way back. But, again, I'm a big New York sports fan, but besides that, why is it important to not quit? Why is it important to kind of stick to your guns, hold your ground, keep on pushing until the clock hits zero in anything? You never give yourself the shot to do the extraordinary or set the record for biggest comeback in X many years, or, whatever that big achievement is. You never give yourself the shot when you walk away from it, when you pack it in before the clock hits zero. So
yeah, I think it's awesome that they won, and good for them. That shows their mentality for coming back that many points down with that much left in the game. But I also think even if they lost and gave the same amount of effort the last 8 minutes, that still says something, that they're ready for, another chance when they're down bad like that. And that's, but because of that mentality, they came back and won. But it's so important not to hang up the towel.
Pack it in, man. Yeah. And what was cool, there's no 22-point shot in basketball, right? So you're not, it's not like this final Hail Mary that you can take and hope you can tie it up in one crack. It was literally 2-3 points at a time.
Grind it through.
Grinding it out, right? And you don't go from down 22 to tied in one crack. It's
one lucky shot.
Possession, play your butt off on defense. Another possession, play your butt. So again, especially with our youth groups that we work with, I think it's a impactful message that needs to be heard. Just the importance of doing the best that you can until the time is over. right? And then if it's good enough when the dust settles, then you get the accomplishment, you get the W, you get the achievement. If it's not, like Zach, you said, like you can build that positive momentum and rest easy, knowing like, hey, I threw everything I could, and we couldn't have been any better in that moment. We were just up against a better opponent in that given time. So,
Yep. It matters.
Again, little sidetracked, but the importance of kind of sticking with stuff until the clock hits zero. So
100%. What do we got today?
Yeah, no, great. I'm excited for this one. So, you and I kind of go through this process pretty regularly, with potential clients. But the whole theme of this episode here is like, if you're engaging in any sort of team building, leadership development experience, or any experience outside that matter, how do you find the right level of difficulty, right level of challenge for the group, to make sure that experience lines up with kind of their skill set, their desired outcomes, and other factors. So, we touched on this concept early on in one of our episodes, like what to look for when you're engaging in a potential team building experience. Our hope here is, to provide a little bit more detail and specifics with regards to, how do you figure out if something is going to be too easy, if it's going to be in that sweet spot, or if it's going to be too difficult for the group that you're responsible for, whatever it might be.
Right. And I think that, coming from a newer facilitator, when I was learning your programs and learning how to conduct each activity, it was about, rules, safety, goal, how to do it, strategy, and how to manage that crowd, which is of course the first skill that you need to get into. But then I didn't realize like the level of difficulty is a huge part of it going in, because if it's too difficult, you get that I'm giving up and you can't come back from it, and it's just not going to happen. And if it's too easy, you have 25, 30 minutes of dead air and dead space that you have to work with, well, because they're finishing an activity too quickly. So it is a little bit, I'll say, an art to find that right level of difficulty going into a program.
Yeah, and I think to create the art, right? To create the art, it's all about, especially from the sales process. So not even like before you even think about like the actual event and what the 2, 3, 4, 5 hours is going to look like. It's all about inquiring.
Yes.
Right. For us, right. At least for like the person trying to put together the program and hopefully deliver the experience. It's all inquiry. So, we don't take a cookie cutter approach in our team building. We might run the same activity 7 days in a row with different groups. But as far as like how we're delivering it, what the teaching messages are, what the teaching and learning messages are, and then how we structure that one specific activity or initiative within the grand scheme or scope of an experience, there's a lot that goes into it just beyond like showing up and setting up the equipment.
Yep. Going off that, like during the sales process of talking to a potential client, is what you're looking for is like one of the first questions that we ask. Like, do you want just pure fun with your team? Do you want a fun with a little bit of learning and skill development? Or do you want to like really not beat them down, really want to hammer in just all like, I want my team working as efficient as possible. I don't care what the activity it is type of program. So asking those questions are key before even starting what activities that you're going to do.
Yep. And that's, again, I think we're in lockstep with that. You must have had a great trainer early on. But not all seriously,
I'm out. Yeah.
If you look at like team building can encompass a lot of different things, right? There might be a pure recreation center that can say, hey, we offer team building, which in a way, shape, and form they do. Is there going to be significant like learning and group development maybe from that more fun outing type experience? Probably not, but there is a ton of value in taking a break from the grind, whatever the grind is for you and your team, taking a break from the grind with the people that you participate in the grind with on a regular basis, to let loose, to not talk about work, to have fun, to laugh, to maybe struggle together, but get through it together. So there is a ton of value. Like we define those as like outings, right? Fun group outings. Could be a quick like hour, 90-minute, almost like minute to win it structure of a team building event. It could be something that's just, maybe a different duration, but pretty much straight up play based.
Yes.
Right? Play based experiences.
And I mean, I think it's worth mentioning to say that even if it's straight play based and have some fun as an outing with your team, you need to have it difficult enough to keep them entertained for 30, 45 minutes, an hour, or whatever the case is. So it's not like, hey, put this elementary puzzle together that like an adult can solve in 30 seconds. That's no fun either. So there's always a level of difficulty even with the fun stuff.
Yep. Yeah. So like looking at like program styles, right? You have your fun outing on one end of the spectrum. You have your professional development / essential skill building on the other end of the spectrum. And then in the middle, like you touched on, is that sweet spot where most of our groups land. Like, well, yeah, mix of fun, mix of learning. But now within that, this is where the rubber meets the road. It's trying to find information about the group that is going to then drive what we're going to include from a level of difficulty standpoint. The experiences that are going to be part of the program. So, one of the first things, obviously, like group size is a big box to check.
Yep.
Right. Like what we can offer for a group of 10 might be very different from a group of 110 and kind of how things are structured. And then also depending on who the group is and what type of program they're looking for, fun, professional development, or a mix of both. And I think the biggest the biggest step after that is information about the group's dynamic and their desired physical level.
Yep.
And then the desired outcomes for the event. With regards to the physical level, I'll like talk on like some of the not challenges, right? Because we know like if we're working with an adult group that's like sitting down for the vast majority of their 40 hours a week, like we're not ripping them through a program where we're gonna like that we might put like a high school or college sports team through. So like talk a little bit on your experiences, Zach, just like that specific item, like how much does your group want to move around, and then how does that factor into your proposal design?
Yeah, I mean, I'll take one step back when it comes to the size of the participant that are in the program is actually a huge factor, more than you think, because really weird thing that you don't think about is if you have, I'll put an exaggeration, 30 people working on one puzzle as a team versus 4 or 5 people working on that one puzzle as a team. Crazy enough, the 4 or 5 people will finish it twice as fast. Yep. Because they're the only ones there. They're talking to each other really quick. They have less hands in the pot. When you have 30 people with working on one task together, you would get a lot more working against each other. Yep. to get that simple, or not simple, but to get that activity finished or that job done. Doesn't even matter if it's a puzzle or not. Like in any activity, the more people and more chances there are to have heads being butt. And that's something that we take into consideration, like not just crowd control, but how many people are trying to take charge, how many people are bowing out, how many people are like fighting each other for the piece or like the strategy or whatever. And it actually ends up being not counterproductive, a learning experience of how to work together in a bigger team. So that's one of the things that
this, like one person managing a group of 4 or 5 versus one person managing a group of 50,
right?
Different ballgame. And like, if you're a teacher, if you have a class that's like under 10 students, that's a very different environment than a lecture hall full of 150 students.
Right.
Very, very different environment. And you're spot on. Like the potential for the headbutting because of too many cooks in the kitchen is so much greater with bigger groups. And for us, like we try to keep like, we could say, hey, we're going to have 50 people at this station doing the same activity, but it's not going to be 50 people all working together on one puzzle or one challenge. It's, hey, let's shoot, we're doing this stepping stones activity. We can set up 6 lanes. So each lane has like 8-9 people. So they're still getting the experience, but there's less room for people to hide and disengage. There's less potential for, too many cooks in the kitchen and conflict. But they're still getting a good quality experience where they have to idea share, have to learn from mistakes, have to collaborate to complete task X, whatever that might be.
Yeah, I mean, so like to go even further back, like that's what we have to consider when we're designing a program of the amount of people and like how we want to structure and organize it, because it really does matter with like the pot, or what do you call it, hands in the pot, whatever that saying is. Yeah.
Yep.
And then the other thing too is like you said is the age, whether I'm working with adults, athletes, scholars, or youths, like the even though we talk about this all the time, you see similar or very similar actions and issues, no matter what the age is or the athletes, but it does matter because of the fact of how they attack a problem. So you always see, and we've talked about this, adults in corporate groups, they overthink. They take too long to strategize. They think that there's one perfect answer and they're trying to figure it out. And they don't actually attack the problem with their hands until they think they have it perfect. That's just how I think adults are wired. They want to get it right. Well, if you're too young and like you haven't experienced that parts of life yet, they dive into it without a second thought, without any strategy, and just like yelling at each other out the gate. And you're just trying to mediate like that halfway in between of like, you know what, time to put hands on it, or like, hey guys, why don't we step back and make it that strategy? But to go back to it, that's all time taken during that activity. So when we are designing it to see what difficulty that we want to make that program, that matters.
Yep. And then I look at, so we recently did a teacher end of year team building / professional development experience. And it was with about 110, 115 educators from a high school here in Connecticut. And we don't have a ton of these, but it was a pretty cool structure that we ended up designing for that program, where we did kind of an opening activity that was pretty low level from a physical standpoint that involved everybody. We did a closing activity that was more of a fun, low level, kind of elicit some laughter at the end of the day. That was designed for everybody. But the meat of the program, we actually had 3 different stations that we offered: a low speed, high speed, medium speed. And the teachers had the opportunity to sign up for,
their own.
The experience that matched their desired takeaways under the umbrella of the program that matched the desired takeaways of the person that organized it. And it was cool. Like, it was cool to see the people that were itching to run around and kind of have that like high school PE class feeling in a team building environment. They had that. They had that and then some. The people that wanted to have more of a sit-stand pace of play, we had that. We did a little bit of a professional development workshop with to introduce some tools that they can maybe integrate into their classroom, the following school year. And then we had that middle pocket where the people that wanted to move around but not necessarily like sprint all over the dang field, they had a good experience as well. So I think if you're not, like you said, anytime you're not matching the physical element of the activity to the desired physical exertion level of the participant, you're absolutely asking for people to pull away from the experience.
And go ahead. Well, I was going to say, like, get into like more of the meat and the details of the difficulty. So that's when we pick the activity that you think is going to be most active, medium, and then low, which is definitely part of what we do. But during the activity, there's different levels of during the activity, there's different levels of difficulty that we can choose depending on, for instance, like for pipeline, there's X, Y, and Z to make it harder, or X, Y, and Z to make it easier. And then throughout the facilitation of the activity, when to step in and when not to, if you want to elaborate on that.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think the first thing to remember, I would say 99% of our activities, and maybe all 100%, but just to be safe, 99% of our activities kind of have a stock version, and then at least a version or multiple versions where we can what we call extensions, right? Make it more challenging. And then we also have ways where we can modify, make it less challenging. Yep. So we know going in that here's the baseline. Here are some simple tactics to make simpler. Here are some simple tactics to make more challenging. How do we make those determinations? Well, first off, I think you got to, again, go back to the start. What's the group all about? In the late 60s, there was a study on group dynamics. Bruce Tuckman, and I don't have the year in front of me. I want to say it was around 1965. But this Tuckman introduces these 4 stages of group development. And later there was a 5th stage that was added. But you look at what's the group dynamic? Well, per Tuckman's research, there was 4 in the original research, 4 stages of group development. And they're not linear to a point where you complete one and you're never going backwards. This can always change. You can always go forwards or backwards. Yep. But there's forming, storming, norming, and performing. And without spending a ton of time, forming, bunch of new people coming together, right? Typically kind of putting their guards up a little bit, right? They're not necessarily trying to create too many waves, trying to get a lay of the land from a social standpoint. Where do I fit in this group? Who do I feel comfortable connecting with? Who are the people that I don't know? Typically in the forming stage, there's a pretty thick social barrier that we put up. Yep. Not trying to create too many waves, maybe not even trying to get noticed all that much, just trying to slot in somewhere, right, in the group. And then the next stage that Tuckman introduces is called the storming phase, where everybody kind of slots into some sort of hierarchical ranking within the group, but there's some conflict. And it might be as simple as somehow Zack fell into the kind of the alpha vocal leader role. I should be that guy, right? And then in the storming phase, you're starting to see almost like a power struggle, right? For key positions in the group. And you'll almost, if it grows to an extreme, you'll see you'll have Zack and his crew doing their thing. You'll have, Mike and his crew doing their thing. You'll have, Allison and her crew doing their thing. And you see this conflict brewing and almost all the little cliques, right? In the storming phase, you're seeing people kind of battle for the different positions available within the group, whatever those might be. The norming phase is everybody has kind of settled into a role, and although they might not fully agree that they're in the right role, they've agreed to the fact that, you know what, for the benefit of our group,
I'll work
whether
here.
It's begrudgingly or not, I'm going to do what I need to do in this little slot that I've been assigned, whatever that might be. So you see the conflict kind of dust settle, and I was like, yeah, all right, whatever. I want to be the vocal leader, but Zack apparently has that on a stranglehold, so I'm just going to do whatever they tell me to do. And then you have your performing stage, which is, it's different from norming. It's not people settling into a role. It's people embracing. Embracing, attacking, and fully understanding I'm in this role because it matches my strengths. It covers up Zack's weaknesses. And if we're throwing our all into it, we're going to have great success. And I hate the buzzword synergy, but typically when groups are in that performing role, there's that synergy. Yeah. Where everybody's pulling in the same direction. Everybody's in the right spot to maximize their strengths and to support the weaknesses of other people on the team. So all that stuff factors in, right? If I'm working with a group that's in their forming stage, I'm going to run an icebreaker, but I'm going to strategically pick an icebreaker that, or I'm going to run maybe a bunch of icebreakers. I'm going to strategically pick some icebreakers that are kind of low level, social, like low social complexity, where I'm not going to ask Zach to stand in front of his group, the group of 50 people, and share like his deepest fear and the biggest mistake he's made in his life. That's like not going to be the first thing I'm going to do in that.
Right.
Some stuff like, you know, if it's young ones, say, what's your favorite color? Like, what's your favorite hobby? If it's adults, maybe like your favorite movie, or, you know, the last book that you read, like some icebreakers that are like right where they're supposed to be. Going into the other phases, like how do we extend or modify, or when to extend or modify. You know, if I have a group that's in the storming phase, so battling for positional ranking,
right,
I'm going to pick an activity that requires a high level of collaboration without introducing competition. If I extend an activity to introduce some level of competition, I am just feeding the fire of the storming that they're in.
Yep.
Oh, look, at my team's better than Zach. Zach, you shouldn't be the alpha leader. Like, I should be the vocal leader because we kicked your butt in that activity. It almost creates a bigger divide.
Yeah, we saw that. I don't want to name names, but at a recent large group adult that we did together, where we had team charades, and like you saw alphas coming out real fast because we made it a competition. Not that we made a mistake of making it a competition right out the gate, but we realized like, oh, you felt like tension happen real quickly because these were more competitive people than we thought.
Yep. And then on the converse of that, if a group is in like the norming stage where they kind of survive the storm, they're settling into roles, but they're not fully sold on the fact that like their role's important or they're in the right position based on their strengths and weaknesses, we might put them through an activity that has clearly defined different roles involved.
Yes.
To help highlight the importance of like, Zach and I are on the same team. Zach is doing A, I'm doing B. If we both do those things to the best of our ability, we are going to find team success. If I'm spending more of my time worried about what Zach's not doing in his role and vice versa, we're probably going to go back to that storming phase and have some more struggle and conflict that is necessary. You know, and then in the performing phase, I always like to, you know, depending on where things are, I always like to introduce some more challenging levels of the activities to elicit some of that conflict and really to help the group understand, like, yes, it's great that you're comfortable. It's great that you're kind of getting these feelings of synergy and firing on all cylinders, but let's not get complacent.
Yes. I'm going to interrupt you there too. I think it's extremely important. I mean, you're the one who told me this, is if you surprise a group in that performing stage that are doing well with another level of the activity that they didn't know about going into it, they're like, what do you mean there's another bucket further away? What do you mean there's a way to go faster? Like, what are you talking about? Like, just because we're doing good, we can make it harder. But when you set up and have that expectations like, hey, this is the goal. Hopefully you can do it in this time or this amount of whatever. It doesn't matter the activity, but this is the goal. But there are different tiers to it. If you get it, then expect another level to it. You know, so like they're like, oh, we did it this way. Please give us more, and they're waiting for the next challenge or waiting the next difficulty instead of just like, hey, by the way, let's try it this way. They're like, what the heck?
Yeah, I think that goes two ways. Like, so you'd call that like a front load. Right.
Yes.
So like before we even start the activity, it is an absolute breach of trust if you sneak attack it on them, right? As a leader, if you say, oh, hey, congratulations, but wait, there's more. Right. So what Zach just described is this concept of front loading, like, hey, everybody's gonna start at this level. You know, and we have 45 minutes together at this team building station. If you complete that level, there will be a next level to it. Or hey, you know, we're going to start at this level of the activity. It might be a really difficult challenge. So we understand that we're going to stretch, you know, we're going to ask you to kind of stretch out of your comfort zone a little bit here. But don't be discouraged. If you get to a point where you're like really, really struggling, there's ways that we can modify the activity to maybe build some positive momentum, get a taste of success before then coming back to that more challenging version. So I think it's always important to have that front load concept where, it's not, hey, we're done. We get to sit down and kick up our feet for the last 15 minutes.
Yeah.
Because, at the end of the day, like, life doesn't move like that, right? You complete one challenge and it's on, what's the next one, right? What's the next one that I'm going to be confronted with? So, it's important to bring that up before so they're not taken aback by it and surprised by it.
Yep. And I think another topic, not to switch gears, but on the same page of expectations, what do you do, Dan, when you see a mistake happen that in different kinds of group dynamics? So, for instance, like if I see somebody make a mistake, drop the ball, are inside the 2 feet inside the rope, whatever activity that we're doing, but the team is locked in. They're communicating. They have their role set. They're achieving the goal in a great manner, and they broke a rule. When do you say, "Hey, I saw it," or when do you say, "You know what," or not say anything at all?
Maybe I sneezed when it happened, and
exactly.
That is, I'm going to give you probably an indirect answer here because there's no
right or wrong,
black or white. Like you're always doing it, but like in general terms, and this is going to sound a little like, if I have a group of participants, I don't care what age they are, if they are doing everything in the best of their ability to kind of do it the right way, they're listening to instructions. They're asking questions if they don't understand something. Like they're hearing everybody's idea. They're coming to consent. Like if they're taking all those steps, right? And they make like what I like to refer to as like a hustle mistake. Right? It's not a lack of focus mistake. It's like I'm trying to do everything I can for my team to be successful. Maybe I jumped the gun in something or whatever it might be.
Yeah.
I am much more likely to be like, oh shoot, I didn't even see what happened. Oh, good.
Yeah.
With it. Or just blatantly see it and kind of blind eye it.
Yeah.
Because mistake, like if you make the big deal out of the mistake, there's risk of kicking a group back to like a storming. Zack, I can't believe you messed up or something when they had all this positive stuff built. And so that's one instance. And then the other instance, if I have a group that's being difficult, if I have a group that's not listening to anything, that's arguing and fighting, that's constantly, in a spot of like contentiousness with one another, or arguing about like the other team did this or that, whatever it might be. In those instances, I might be a little bit more nickel and dime mentality.
Yeah.
51% of your foot was off of the blue dot on stepping stone restart.
Get back. Yeah.
50.5. You know what I mean? So but I think it's also so it's not just the group behavior that factors into that. It's also like where it happened. Like if we're on the last 10 minutes of the program, and like we've gone from starting line to where we are, and we've seen some really tremendous growth in the group. Like, do I want to send them back on the bus at the end of the day with like this crappy taste in their mouth of like, damn, we didn't get to finish the last activity because we broke a rule? No, because it's not like our activities aren't the end all be all for like learning. Can they take lessons from our experiences and then apply them back to whatever their day-to-day is?
Right. And it's really hard to like explain to our viewers or listeners right now, because like, oh, so you allow cheating? Like, no, we don't. Like we're there in a safe environment, a controlled environment. No one's judging us. There's not a panel here. There's no winners or losers. We're there to facilitate a program to get the points of the client's needs checked off and done. And if we see that they're close to the end, 10 minutes left, and there's a rule break and they're doing all the things that the client wants us to do, and they're learning together and getting the job done, we're actually not cheating them. We're helping them by letting them finish or get that quickest time, whatever the case. Like, that's why we're there. We're not there to scrutinize and make sure that the rules are completely perfect. And we could use that as a tool for the ones that are really not working together. But I think it's that gray area where you as a facilitator need to decide like what difficulty that should be implemented.
Yeah, and again, I think 2 quick points here to kind of wrap up the episode. One, and this is something we talked about very early on in the podcast, and this is one of the early parts of like facilitator training with us, is every activity in every program needs to have a level of engagement, a level of challenge, and a level of accomplishment. Mm-hmm. And there's like this arc, right? So if the arc ends with this like disappointing challenge, that the group, like the program ends with this group having this just bad taste in their mouth, like, oh my God, we didn't get to finish it. We were getting nickel and dimed with rule breaks. We ended up feeling crappy worse about our group at the end of the program than we did at the start of the program.
Yep.
In my opinion, we did a horrible job of delivering that program.
Exactly.
Right. So for me, it's all about, again, it's less about the performance and the activity. Can I get this group to leave our experience feeling good, positive, excited about leading themselves, about leading other people, about problem solving, about being a great communicator, about being a great supporting teammate? If I can get a group to leave our program feeling those things, mm-hmm. There's a greater chance they're going to do that back in school on Monday, back in the office on the next day after the program, next practice they have as a sports team, whatever it might be.
Yep.
So that's, our job is to make sure we find the right amount of challenge so we can accomplish all 3 of those things: engage, challenge, and accomplish.
That's it. And not for nothing, like the group that is showing those qualities and those learning experiences, when or if, not when, but when they do make those mistakes, we do say go back to the cone. We say you drop that ball. We say like whatever faults or restarts that they had to have to get to that point. It happened. It happens during every single freaking program and activity that we have, no matter how great or how bad your group is. People make mistakes and we call them out, especially at the beginning. And we're talking about like blind eye to mistakes that are,
like last 30 seconds.
Last 30 seconds. Yeah. If they're doing super, super good after they've made that 100 mistakes, but persevered to 101, that's what we're talking about here. It's not like, oh, you know what? Yeah, fly through it, make as many mistakes as you want and don't learn anything. Like, that's not the area that we're talking about.
Yeah, because again, like with a good quality team building program, and I'm not talking just to empower leadership, I'm talking about any organization you work with. If they're teaching you how to be good at key punch, it's not a quality program.
Yeah,
the activity is the vehicle for them to be good at what they're supposed to be doing outside of the program.
Yeah, I hate to say it, it's the journey.
Yeah, it's the journey. It's the low risk experience where they can explore, they can learn, they can mess up and recover. Mm-hmm. So that when they are in their real world environment where there is some real world risk involved, they feel good about and confident in their abilities to do X, Y, and Z to achieve success, whatever that is. And in kind of closing for the episode, like we work with a lot of students. And like I always like how do you to build stock with the students, like how your class is going. Oh man, they're going all right. I'm really struggling in math. What's causing the struggle? Well, I don't understand it, so I don't turn in my work. I'm like, all right, cool. Here's the recipe for success. We work with God knows how many teachers. I spent years as a PE teacher, interact. Like, I haven't crossed paths with a teacher who will fail you if you show up to class.
Yes.
Yeah. If you are an engaged learner and not a distraction. And if you turn your work in on time, as poor as it might be, turn it in on time and go to extra help. And if you can check those 4 boxes in that math class that you're failing right now, I can pretty much guarantee you that you're going to earn a grade that's above a fail.
And not for nothing, if you're doing those 4 things and you're showing that, you're
probably not going to fail any.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But your point is true.
Yep. So, kind of going, we touched on a handful of topics here, like going back to like finding the right level of challenge in your team building program. Make sure if you're an organization looking to set up one of these things, make sure there's a conversation with whoever partner organization you're trying to work with.
Mm-hmm.
They're not asking you about your group. If they're not asking you about your desired outcomes, if they're not asking you about the dynamic and the physical exertion level of the group, they're probably just throwing throwing poop at the wall and seeing what sticks.
Yep.
And maybe they'll luck into something good, maybe they won't. But if you're if you're engaged in conversation with somebody who is really trying to pull that information in the spirit of designing the best possible experience for your group, that's probably the one that you want to link up with for the experience, because you're going to get something that's tailored for your group, and you're going to get something that's kind of on par with, we always talk about meeting the group where they're at. It's so important to do that, and you're going to get an experience that does just that. So
100%.
Cool. Zach, always a pleasure, man. Thank you for hopping on. Thank you for everybody for listening. Please subscribe, follow us on our YouTube channel where we house all of these episodes. And then on our Instagram at Lead with Empower. But thank you for checking it out for episode
15, 16.
I'm going to defer to Zach.
Oh, yeah, I don't have it up, dude.
It is episode 16 of the 2025-2026 Lead with Empower podcast. Hope you enjoy an awesome Memorial Day weekend. Zach, thank you as always, man. Always a pleasure.
Thank you, Dan.